Hello, everybody. This is Greg again, episode 4 of Unbreakable Spirits. And thanks for joining me. A few things I wanted to talk about today. First of all, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today because I cracked a rib here on the left-hand side yesterday. Not even sure how I did it. I just heard a crunch, like a Frito, like a potato chip. And those are the kind of fractures I get now. I get what they call stress fractures. You lean too much to one way. Sometimes the weather could cause it, change in weather. I get a lot of stress fractures now than I used to get, as opposed to full blown fractures where you just snap a bone. You know? So the stress fractures they're painful and they're annoying, but they heal on their own. There's really nothing you can do. You can't really put a cast around the rib. So you just kind of have to let it heal a little bit. I did put a heating pad on it, and it seems to help it a little bit. But you just got to let it go and it heals itself, in a couple of weeks. So no big deal. I'm kind of used to them by now. Speaking of on the men, I wanted to send my best wishes out to the one and only Rhys of the Phillies. He suffered that really tragic, devastating knee injury yesterday. And it sounds like he's going to need surgery. So, and he's probably going to be out for the entire season. But best wishes to Rhys. He's a really nice guy. I met him twice. Met him one time down at the Phillies had a photo night. They used to have photo nights every third Saturday in July, which they haven't done that now for a few years because of the pandemic. But I met him there one time, and he's a great guy, just a regular guy. And one other time, met him down at the Phillies Christmas tree lighting, and he was the player who was there, meeting people. So he's a really good guy. And his wife is very nice too. I've never met her, but I've heard that during the playoffs last year, and Rhys had a good playoffs, but even when he was getting booed for striking out down there at the ballpark, she was buying beers for people, free beers for like the first 50 or 100 people in line, So they sound like really classy people, and I wish him the best. I know he's going to come back. He's going to get his surgery, and he's going to rehab, and he's going to come back stronger than ever. So good luck, Rhys. We'll be praying for him. I wanted to also mention that, I forgot to say it. I should have said this before in one of my earlier webcasts or podcasts or whatever you call this. March is Disability Awareness Month, and we should celebrate. We should, sometimes I feel like people with disabilities are invisible and they're forgotten sometimes. We celebrate other minorities and cultures, and rightfully so. But sometimes it feels like people with disabilities kind of get the shaft sometimes, So it's nice. We really should, and you think about disability is the biggest minority in the world. Think about the biggest. And it's a group that anyone can join at any time. And I think the reason maybe people want to avoid the subject is, sometimes we look different than other people do. And I think sometimes people look at other people with disabilities and say, they don't want to think about that. They don't want to think about becoming disabled, growing older, needing help doing things, and just avoid it, And I don't think that's right. I think we should be embracing people who are different than us, and because we can learn from them, and they give us strength and they give us courage. I mean, think about it this way: everyone from the person in a wheelchair who is um, going out to work, or going to school, or just raising a family, driving a van, doing everything that everyone else does, all the way to someone who just needs help getting out of bed in the morning, someone who needs help getting dressed or getting bathed, someone who is bedbound. They have so much to give. Everyone is a person. Everyone's life matters, and I know when I see someone with a disability, whether it be similar to mine or whether it be someone with a different disability, that it gives me strength and it gives me courage to keep going on and keep fighting and not give up. And so I think we need to be aware and we need to celebrate, just like we do anyone else who made a difference. Diversity is important. So I said, now the month is winding down, that take a look around you and just, even if it's just giving someone a hug or just holding their hand or just saying, job well done, job well done. Just be aware. Just be aware. I don't think people with disabilities want to be treated any differently. Certainly I don't, never did. But I think they want to be recognized. We all want to be recognized from time to time, that, hey, we matter. And we're doing a good job. We're hanging in there. Life can be a challenge. Life can be tough. And it's just, sometimes it's tough day by day, just hanging in there. So, job well done. I see you guys, even if maybe no one else does. I see you. I see you, people who have disabilities, and I applaud you and I celebrate you. And I may not have the same type of disability you have. It doesn't matter. I see you and I see how you're fighting. And don't give up. Don't give up, okay? Speaking of hugs, I love hugs. And I try to give hugs all the time. My dogs, my wife, my family, friends. I love hugs. And I've missed them, during the pandemic, it was not about the touch. And I was all, wearing a mask. I still do at times. And all the restrictions. Thank God, me and Holly, and we haven't gotten sick during this last few years. Thank God. We've known people who have died. And it really makes me feel bad too, because I used to be a social worker, mostly in nursing homes, for most of our career. And I think, especially during the height of the pandemic back in 2020, my thoughts turned to people in nursing homes and families a lot. And I could only imagine what they were going through, being isolated and alone and scared, and of course being COVID or pneumonia, any sort of disease like that, when you're elderly and compromised and frail, is really life-threatening. So I really feel for people in that situation because I worked in that situation for many, many years. And I think of the families too who weren't able to see their loved one for a long time. And I know what loneliness and depression and isolation can do. So I hope we'll get to today. I think we're starting to where people can hug each other and touch each other. And, I got to tell you, when I was a social worker, one of the things I promised myself and my residents, to me, it was an honor and privilege taking care of my residents for 30 years. I met so many residents, so many families, wonderful people. They were just, can't remember them all, but some are still in my mind. I can never forget them. And one of the things I always promised myself to do, I usually worked on a floor with as many as 50 people I took care of. I helped to take care of. And sometimes I worked in places where I was the only social worker. And I had as many as 140 people. That was my caseload. And the one thing I always tried to do every day, no matter how busy I was, and no matter if I had an admission to do the paperwork for or meetings, it's always meetings, and computer work, no matter what, I always tried to go around every day, whether it be before I left or not, and say hello to them. And I think that's very important to take the time to do it because you build trust and you build being comfortable with people and comfortable with you. And a lot of people in nursing homes, they are very lonely and they miss people coming to visit them. And maybe they don't have any family, or maybe they do have family and just not visit. And now, especially with COVID and the years that have gone by. And the one thing I tried to do was every day stop by and say hello. You would be amazed what a simple hello could do, what just holding someone's hand. And you would be amazed, even if it's just for a minute, you dropping by and letting them know that you didn't forget about that they are not forgotten about. That's big. So I always try to do that. And I think for the most part I did. I don't think I missed too many days where I didn't make my rounds and I didn't stop and say hello to people. Whether they hear you or not, I used to have a lot of people who were in comas and we'd always stop by and talk to them. It was interesting. I worked with hospice for a long time. I didn't work in hospice, but I worked as a social worker on units where we had hospice nurses and clergy and just great people. I don't know how they do it. I mean, they're just wonderful, wonderful people in hospice. And they had told me a long time ago, never assume that a person who is in a coma, unconscious, can't hear you. Always assume that they can. And so I always was of that philosophy, not only throughout my career, but in other ways too. After my mom had a stroke back in 2013, and she lived for a couple of days after the stroke, and I visited her in the hospital the last day, and I was alone with her at the time. I came home from work and I had to work. I just couldn't. I had to keep busy, and the doctors had told us that the stroke had taken away a lot of her mental capacity. And if she ever woke up, she wouldn't be the same. She wouldn't be the same. So I was visiting her that day, and my family went home to take showers and something to eat. We were going to come back, and they were up. It was around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was alone, and she was laying there in bed with all the machines hooked up to her. I just went over to her bedside and I held her hand, started talking to her, and I said, Mom, I'm here. And I started telling her about the day, like we usually did when I would visit her in the nursing in the last few years of her life. We would talk about the weather, how the dog was doing at home, am I eating, am I watering the plants, that sort of thing. So I started talking to her, and I said, what, Mom? If you are hanging on, if you're holding on because of me, because I knew she worried about me about what was going to happen to me if something happened to her. I said, don't worry, let go, and I don't want you to suffer. I want you to be at peace. And I didn't know if she could even, I just assumed she could. And I just told her, let go, I'll be okay. And believe it or not, I heard a noise from her. So there was a few gasps in there. But nothing changed really, and I just kept talking to her. And the nurse came in a few minutes later and said, gee, her color's changed a little. I need to check on her. And she did, and it turned out that Mom had died while I was talking to her. So I'm convinced more than ever that she heard me, and she needed that okay to go. She needed to know that I was going to be okay. That she was hanging in there for a couple of days, and I think she just needed to know that it was okay to let go. And she did. So I'm more convinced than ever that people who maybe in comas, unconscious, don't give up hope that they can't hear you. Always assume that they can. So that's my personal story. I do hope we get back to life as we know it, as far as maybe we'll never get back to shaking hands. And maybe that's probably a good thing. I do the fist pumping thing now, but maybe hugs again. I miss giving hugs, and it's very interesting. I was we do a lot of virtual things, and I wish I could come and talk to each one of you in person, but so in a way, thank God for Zoom and YouTube and computers, things like that. It's a way of reaching out into the world, right? And talking to anyone, anywhere. It is amazing stuff. I still don't know how it happens. I'm not the techie guy, so it still amazes me that I'm able to talk to you guys wherever you're watching this in the world. I know I have one friend on Twitter who's from Ireland, Maria, and she watches the webcast, and it's kind of cool, when you think about it. Someone somewhere in Ireland is watching. Um, so anyway, I was at the flower show a few weeks ago, Philadelphia Flower Show, and it's just great. It's beautiful. I needed that touch of spring, And now that it is spring, it's cold outside, but it'll get warmer. And flowers are starting to come up. We have crocuses in the front yard that are coming up, and but it was amazing because one part of the flower show, which I never saw before, was a virtual in this one of the exhibits. I went to this little tent and they had virtual flowers on a big, like a movie theater screen. And it just kept changing all the time, the picture from one flower to another, one design to another. And that was cool. People were actually taking pictures of the virtual flowers. And that's cool. I mean, there were real flowers out just outside. You walk around the exhibit center. It smells so great, but there was virtual flowers. It seems like virtual everywhere. Virtual this, virtual that. I just hope we don't lose that human touch, And I hope we don't lose that. I think it's nice that we're not wearing as many masks as we need to anymore, because now people can smile and you can see people smiling, and that's cool. I just hope we don't lose the humanity, the human part in humanity. I want us to stay human and just I don't want us to lose that. So hopefully hugs will come back in growth. Well, I will leave you guys. I just wanted to pop in and wish everybody a happy Disability Awareness Month. And there's exciting things happening on my end. I have a brand new website, which is going to be really cool, I think, for people to visit. Will be a place for you to check out my book and future books. One that I'm finishing up now, and which I'll tell you about some time, and others that I'm planning down the road. There'll be a place to book for speaking engagements, book signings, or whatever you want, either in person speaking engagements or virtual. And again, that's what's cool about Zoom, that you can do this any place, anywhere, So, and there's also going to be a spot for a blog. And I used to write a blog on another site a couple of years ago, for years. And it was fun, it's just a place to jot down your thoughts, be it in sports or concerts or movies or whatever, right? So it was fun. And I also hope to reprint some of my articles. I used to write for the local newspaper and write about disability issues for a few years, and still have those articles, and I think they're still relevant. So I want to republish those again and see what you think. And so there's a lot happening, and some other stuff that may be coming too. So hang in there with me. I'm getting a little better at this techie stuff, learning how to try to put music to the beginning of the show and end of the show, and maybe a logo. Who knows? High technology. So tomorrow, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to see Al Stewart at the famous historic colonial theater here in Phoenixville. And Al Stewart is just great. He is just great. He's a great musician. Voice is still really, really good. And he tells us great, funny stories. And it's a night out that is needed. You know, it's nice to hear live music again, isn't it? Um, that's another thing I missed during the pandemic when we were locked in, locked down, or whatever. Um, I missed hearing live music. You could listen to CDs and vinyls and stuff, but there's nothing like live music. So between last year, a lot of the concerts that we had tickets for were rescheduled because of the pandemic. And so we're just catching up now with some of the shows that have been postponed or rescheduled. So that's kind of cool. And we have tickets to see quite a few shows coming up this summer. It's really going to be fun. So the first is seeing Al Stewart tomorrow night. So that's going to be fun. You're the Cat. It's a great song. He's a great song. Really great. So I want to say thanks again for watching the podcast. And you guys take care until the next time I see you. And be kind to each other and have fun and smile and give each other hugs. That's if it's appropriate. Okay, and Rhys Hoskins, get better, man. I hope to see you again at the ballpark sometime soon. So you guys take care. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.